This morning, NASCAR is trying to find out who carried out an abhorrent racist act. Officials found a noose in the garage of driver Bubba Wallace.
Yeah. I mean, that this happens in the year 2020 is just beyond belief. Wallace is the only black driver in NASCAR's top racing circuit.
After the circuit's only black driver pushed to get the Confederate flag banned from events.
Aimed at its only full-time elite black driver.
The Justice Department is investigating a racist message targeting the only full-time black driver in NASCAR's top circuit.
Bubba Wallace is NASCAR's only top full-time black driver.
NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace is the lone black driver in NASCAR.
This is currently the only black driver in NASCAR.
The only black driver who...
The only black driver.
Wallace, the 26-year-old racer, who is the only black driver in NASCAR's top series.
Wallace is a Mobile native and the only full-time black driver in NASCAR's top racing circuit.
Wallace is the only full-time black driver.
Within NASCAR is a racer, NASCAR race. I don't know what the right title is.
The only full-time black driver at NASCAR's top level.
Wallace, the only black driver in NASCAR's Cup Series this season,
is NASCAR's only black driver.
Driver, yes, a NASCAR driver. Jesus. Anyway, a NASCAR driver, Bubba Wallace, who happens to be black. And
this is not new. This is something that we've known existed for a long time. This is something we know will continue to exist.
It's a clear act of, in a racist mind, revenge.
People are apparently mad at Bubba Wallace for saying that they shouldn't have Confederate flags at these races. They're like, are you trying to call us racist? Well, you know what? We're gonna prove you wrong by hanging a noose in your, in your area, and remind you of the lynchings of black people.
I think it's interesting because, remember, Bubba Wallace said he found this noose, and so the FBI was investigating whether there was some sort of a hate crime here, and now they say no, there wasn't, and here's why. They say they've now concluded that that noose was in the specific garage number 4 at NASCAR, as early as last October of 2019. Bubba Wallace didn't get assigned that garage until last week. And so the Justice Department says there's no way that whoever put that noose there would have known that Bubba Wallace was ultimately going to be assigned that specific garage. So they say there's no federal crime here.
I don't think you understand what irony means. So that did not help prove him wrong. It helped prove him 100% correct.
Now, the media, especially the sports media, they pounced on this story. They pounded all weekend long about a supposed noose found in the garage of black driver Bubba Wallace. Now, it turned out to be false. And then the FBI was brought in. They put all these people on the case. Now it turns out it was just a rope used to shut the garage door.
Good news that the noose found hanging in his garage was not directed towards him. The only full-time black driver on the circuit, Bubba Wallace. What's the first thing you thought then when you heard, okay, it wasn't directed towards him, it'd been there for a while, but there was still a noose hanging in a garage?
I'm glad there's no hate crime. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how anybody decides that is anything but good news. If the FBI is certain of this through its investigation, and if there's no hate crime, that's good.
Anyone should have been skeptical of this, meaning they should have checked the story out, demanded evidence, tried to figure out what was going on. Learning that this was not a noose, but a pulley for a garage door handle is something that everyone should have been much more cautious. But I think many people in our media, sadly, want to provoke racial conflict. They think that's going to help them politically because they are desperate to make sure that their political opponent, Donald Trump, does not win. So they can't be honest about the actual state of affairs in this country. They can't be honest about what a good country it is. They have to provoke conflict. And if that means running wild with stories that the evidence isn't in support of, they're happy to do it.
And we also know that one of the other racing teams has now issued a statement saying that they had team members who remember seeing what looks like a noose in that spot, that location, sometime in 2019. So it appears that someone might have misunderstood or at least didn't realize what that was when they saw it. And I guess
throw the entire book at whoever did this. It is gross and it is frightening. NASCAR should thank itself that Bubba Wallace is uniquely qualified to handle this. He is a real grown-up.
Bubba had a conversation after the race.
Oh, not only communication, but Bubba throwing.
NASCAR, again, is incredibly lucky that Bubba Wallace is uniquely qualified to handle this. He is the future of NASCAR, it should be noted. Young, qualified, and tolerant. And if NASCAR's got to get rid of 15 to 20 to 25 to 30% of their fan base and bring in people who understand the world we live in, I am all for it.
Anytime a person of color is touched by racism in this way, we all know that it really stings. It stings and it hurts.
Good news that the noose found hanging in his garage was not directed towards him.
But the fact that he has come out and said, I want you to see my smile, I want you to know you are not taking me down. And his mom said, yeah, they're trying to scare you and they can't do that. I love the moment and I love the support that he's getting. It's so tender to me.
Yeah. LeBron James tweeting his support, saying that he stands with Bubba.
It's kind of an amusing story, really, but it should have caused the rest of us to pause and reflect for a minute. Every few months, there appears to be new hysteria over nooses discovered somewhere, often in a public place, and almost inevitably, the hate crime we're warned about turns out to be fake. This story has been told again and again and again, but our authorities never learned the obvious lesson. This isn't a very racist country. Sorry, Democratic Party. We understand you want to get elected to power on that premise, but it's just not true, and most people know it isn't.
Now, some people are suggesting that this is a hoax or perhaps even staged by NASCAR to garner more support for the removal of the Confederate flag. But my understanding is that the only people who have access to the area where the noose was found are the racing teams and perhaps a few essential workers. So what would you say to those people who are doubting that this even happened or that it's true?
Yeah, just like Steve Phelps said, it offends me that people would go to those measures. But again, I'm not shocked. People are entitled to their own opinion to make them feel good, whatever, help them sleep at night.